My name is Sibylla. I'm 32 and I used to believe in true love and loyalty. My 8-year marriage to Travis seemed perfect until I discovered his affair with my close friend Natalie. The day I found his special drawer with that expensive lube he used only for special occasions, something inside me broke. So I replaced it with industrial strength glue. What happened next was absolute chaos. Before I begin my story, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this unfolds. I met Travis when I was 22 at my friend's art gallery opening in downtown Seattle. I remember that night so vividly. I was wearing a black cocktail dress that I'd saved 3 paychecks to afford, feeling out of place among all these sophisticated art lovers. I was just starting my career as an interior designer, mostly decorating small apartments and helping friends with budget renovations. That night, I was actually there to support the gallery owner, my college roommate Sarah, who had given me one of my first professional opportunities designing her space. Travis stood out immediately, tall with dark hair and confident green eyes. He was discussing one of the abstract paintings with such passion that I couldn't help but listen. When he caught me staring instead of looking away, he smiled and waved me over. This artist is trying to convey the juxtaposition between urban sprawl and natural spaces, he explained. What do you see in it? I told him honestly that I saw shapes and colours that would look perfect in a modern loft space, and he laughed not mockingly, but with genuine delight at my practical designer perspective. We spent the entire evening talking, and by the time Sarah was locking up the gallery, Travis had asked for my number. Our romance was a whirlwind. Within 6 months, we were practically living together in his downtown apartment. He was 26, then already establishing himself in marketing at a growing tech company. We complemented each other perfectly. His analytical mind balanced my creative one, his social confidence helped me network for my budding business, and my eye for design helped him present himself more professionally as he climbed the corporate ladder. Travis proposed on our 1-year anniversary during a weekend trip to Vancouver. He'd arranged a private dinner on a rooftop overlooking the harbour with string lights and a violinist. When he got down on one knee, there wasn't a second of hesitation in my yes. We married at a gorgeous vineyard in Napa Valley the following spring. My parents, both teachers from a small town in Oregon, were initially concerned about the speed of our relationship, but were won over by Travis's charm and stability. His family East Coast academics with dry humour and intimidating vocabularies seemed to approve of me despite my less prestigious background. The wedding was everything I'd dreamed of: wildflowers, fairy lights, dancing until dawn, and Travis looking at me like I was the only woman in the world. The first years of our marriage were blissful. We bought a beautiful craftsman home in Queen Anne with 3 bedrooms for our future family, as Travis would say with a wink. We spent weekends renovating it together, him learning to install bathroom fixtures while I designed each room to perfection. We talked about having children within a few years, once Travis secured his next promotion and my design business was more established. Everything was going according to plan. Travis was rising quickly in his company, eventually becoming the marketing director for their flagship product. I had established my own interior design firm, Sibylla, and was gaining recognition for my work with local restaurants and boutiques. We travelled to Europe, bought nice cars, hosted dinner parties for our expanding circle of friends. From the outside, we were that perfect couple everyone envies. Then Natalie came back into my life. We had been childhood friends in Oregon, inseparable through high school until college sent us in different directions. She'd moved to Chicago, married her college sweetheart, and built a career in public relations. We kept in touch sporadically through social media, but hadn't seen each other in person for years until she called me out of the blue 3 years ago. "Sibs," she said, using my old nickname that only she used. "I'm moving to Seattle. My marriage is over and I need a fresh start." Natalie explained that she'd caught her husband cheating with his administrative assistant, the classic cliché that devastated her. She needed to escape Chicago and all its painful memories. Seattle had a strong PR industry, and knowing I was there gave her at least one friendly face in a new city. I was thrilled to reconnect with my old friend. I helped her find an apartment not far from us, introduced her to my social circle, and spent countless evenings drinking wine on my deck while she processed her grief and anger. Travis was wonderfully supportive, telling me how proud he was of me for being there for Natalie during her crisis. When she struggled to find a job, Travis even offered to help revamp her resume and LinkedIn profile. "Marketing and PR aren't that different," he said. "I know what hiring managers are looking for." He conducted mock interviews with her in our living room while I prepared dinner, giving her feedback and encouragement. When she finally landed a position at a local PR firm, we celebrated with champagne and Travis toasted to new beginnings. How could I have known that the new beginning would destroy everything I thought we had? As Natalie settled into Seattle life, our relationship shifted from me supporting her through crisis to genuine friendship again. We established a tradition of Sunday brunches, just the two of us, to catch up on each other's weeks. Travis encouraged these outings, saying he was happy I had girl time while he caught up on work or watched football with his friends. Looking back, I should have seen the signs much earlier, but when you trust someone completely, you don't look for evidence of betrayal. You explain away the red flags as innocent coincidences. You believe the lies because the truth is too painful to consider. I was building the life I always wanted. My design business was growing. I had my husband, my friend, our beautiful home, and dreams of starting a family soon. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. The first crack in our perfect life appeared about 2 years ago. I had been in Portland for a 3-day consultation with a new client, a boutique hotel that wanted to renovate its lobby and restaurant. The project was exciting, potentially the largest my firm had taken on, and I was fully absorbed in it. On the second day, the client unexpectedly needed to postpone our afternoon meeting due to a family emergency. Suddenly, I had free time and thought, why not surprise Travis by coming home early? I could use the extra time to prepare a special dinner, maybe buy some wine on the way home. I texted him that I was stuck in meetings all day. To preserve the surprise, packed my bags and hit the road back to Seattle. When I arrived home around 4 in the afternoon, nothing seemed immediately amiss. The house was quiet, clean, exactly as I'd left it. But when I called out Travis's name, there was no answer. He should have been at work, of course, but I noticed his laptop on the kitchen counter. Strange, since he never left home without it. I checked my phone and saw he'd texted an hour earlier. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up when you get back from Portland tomorrow." A perfectly normal message that suddenly felt off. Why would his laptop be home if he was working late? I dismissed the thought. Maybe he'd brought a second work laptop home or was working from his phone. Maybe he'd forgotten it for once. I decided to still prepare that special dinner and surprise him when he eventually came home. As I opened a bottle of wine and started chopping vegetables, I noticed other small things. A wine glass in the sink that hadn't been there when I left. 2 plates in the dishwasher, though Travis should have been eating alone. The throw pillows on our couch arranged differently than my precise designer placement. My phone chimed with a text from Travis. "Miss you. How's Portland?" I stared at it, a strange unease settling in my stomach. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. That night, Travis came home around 11, smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume. When I surprised him with my presence, he jumped visibly. "Sibylla, what are you doing home?" The alarm in his voice was poorly disguised as pleasant surprise. I explained about the cancelled meeting. His reaction seemed excessive, a quick hug, then immediate retreat to shower before joining me for the late dinner I'd kept warm. During the meal, he asked detailed questions about Portland, the client, my design plans, talking more than he ate. When I asked about his day, his answers were vague. "Just meetings, the usual office politics." He changed the subject quickly. That night in bed, he turned away from me, claiming exhaustion. When I moved closer, he stiffened slightly before forcing himself to relax. For the first time in our marriage, I felt like a stranger was lying beside me. The next morning, he was up and out early, kissing my forehead goodbye while I pretended to sleep. After he left, I sat in our kitchen with my coffee, trying to rationalize the unease I felt. Was I being paranoid, creating problems where none existed? In the weeks that followed, I couldn't shake that feeling. Travis started working late more frequently. His phone would chime with notifications that he would quickly dismiss before I could see them. He started using a new cologne I hadn't purchased for him. He joined a gym and became suddenly concerned with fitness, though he'd always prioritized work over exercise before. The passwords on his laptop and phone changed. When I asked casually if he could check something on his phone for me while my hands were messy with cooking, he hesitated before unlocking it, angling the screen away as he did. Most tellingly, Natalie began cancelling our Sunday brunches. Always with plausible excuses, deadlines, not feeling well, family visiting. When we did meet, she asked fewer questions about my life and seemed uncomfortable when I mentioned Travis. One Tuesday evening, I came downstairs after a bath to get water and overheard Travis on the phone in his home office. The door was slightly ajar and his voice drifted out. "She doesn't suspect anything," he said quietly. "No, I'm being careful. I know. I want that too." A pause. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Yes, she'll be gone all day for that client presentation." My heart pounded as I silently retreated upstairs. Who was he talking to? What didn't I suspect? I cycled through possibilities. A surprise party, a gift, a career move. But the intimacy in his tone suggested something else entirely. The next day, I pretended to leave for my client presentation, but parked down the street and watched our house. Travis left an hour later, dressed too nicely for a regular workday. I followed him to a coffee shop where he met a colleague, then to his office. Nothing suspicious. I felt ridiculous and ashamed of my amateur detective work and went to my actual meeting, pushing down my fears, but they resurfaced when I found receipts in his suit pocket while doing laundry dinners at intimate restaurants on evenings he'd told me he was working late, a hotel bar charge from a day he'd claimed to be at an all-day conference. When confronted, he explained them away: business dinners, networking events, a quick drink with colleagues between sessions. His explanations were plausible, delivered without hesitation. I wanted to believe him. My anxiety grew until I could barely sleep. I lost weight. Clients commented that I seemed distracted. Finally, I confided in my sister Amanda during our weekly phone call. "Something's wrong with Travis," I admitted, my voice breaking. "He's acting strange, secretive. I think he might be—" I couldn't bring myself to say the words. Amanda listened patiently as I listed all the small signs and changes. "That does sound concerning," she said carefully. "But Sibs, you need to be sure before you make accusations. Collect evidence, trust your instincts, but don't confront him until you know for certain. Otherwise, he'll just deny everything and make you feel crazy for asking." "What kind of evidence?" I asked. "If you really think he's cheating, you'll need to catch him in the act," she said grimly. "Otherwise, it's your word against his, and cheaters are professional liars." Her advice rattled in my head for days. I didn't want to be the kind of wife who spied on her husband. I didn't want to find evidence that would destroy our marriage, but the not knowing was already destroying me. The worst part was not knowing who it might be with. A co-worker, someone I knew. The thought that it might be someone in our social circle, someone who smiled to my face while betraying me behind my back, made me physically ill. I still didn't suspect Natalie. Despite our growing distance, despite her divorce being caused by infidelity, despite her increasing unavailability, I never imagined my childhood friend would betray me so fundamentally. That blind spot would cost me dearly. The regional design conference in Vancouver couldn't have come at a worse time. I was scheduled to speak on a panel about sustainable materials, an opportunity too important to miss for my career, but leaving town meant pressing pause on my growing investigation into Travis's behavior. The night before my departure, Travis was unusually attentive, making dinner, asking about my presentation, even packing my suitcase while I prepared my notes. His sudden thoughtfulness only heightened my suspicions. "I'll miss you," he said, kissing me goodbye the next morning. "3 days is too long." I smiled tightly. "You'll hardly notice I'm gone with your busy schedule." A flicker of something guilt annoyance crossed his face before his easy smile returned. "Still, the house is empty without you." I drove to the conference with my mind racing, barely registering the spectacular views along the sea-to-sky highway. During the welcome reception that evening, I could hardly focus on networking. Midway through a conversation with a potential client, I made a decision. I excused myself, went to my hotel room, and called the conference organizer. "Family emergency," I explained. "I need to return to Seattle immediately. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, but is there any way you can find a replacement for my panel tomorrow?" She was understanding, promised to rearrange things, and wished my family well. I packed quickly, checked out, and began the drive back to Seattle. I called Travis from the road. "Hey, just checking in," I said, forcing lightness into my voice. "How's your day going?" Fine, busy. How's the conference?" His voice sounded distracted. "Great. Lots of interesting panels. I'm about to head into another session, so I might not be reachable until later tonight." "No problem. Love you." "Love you too," I replied, the words feeling hollow. I arrived home around 9 that evening and drove past our house, noticing all the lights were off. Travis should have been home by now. I parked a block away and waited, rehearsing what I would do if he returned with someone. Part of me still hoped I was wrong, that there was an innocent explanation for everything. At 9:45, headlights turned onto our street. Travis's Audi pulled into our driveway, followed immediately by a white Subaru I recognized instantly, Natalie's car. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. They could be having a friendly dinner, I told myself. She could be dropping something off. There could be a group of friends inside I couldn't see from here, but they entered the dark house together, and only the upstairs lights came on our bedroom lights. I sat frozen for 20 minutes, letting the reality sink in. My husband, my friend, in our bed. The two people I trusted most in Seattle betraying me in the most intimate way possible. When I finally approached the house, I moved quietly. I still had my key, of course, but I entered through the back door that had a looser hinge, less likely to make noise. Inside, I slipped off my shoes and listened. Music was playing upstairs, the jazz playlist Travis put on when we were intimate. I moved up the stairs silently, each step feeling like I was climbing toward the execution of my marriage. Outside our bedroom door, I heard their voices laughing, murmuring the unmistakable sounds of passion. I considered turning around, pretending I'd never discovered the truth. I could drive back to Vancouver, attend my conference, return on schedule, and continue living in blissful ignorance. But I knew I would never respect myself if I chose that path. So I pushed open the door. The scene is burned into my memory. Travis and Natalie tangled in our sheets, the Egyptian cotton sheets I'd special ordered for our anniversary, both naked, both turning toward the door, with identical expressions of shock and horror. For one long moment, nobody spoke. Then they both began talking at once. "Sibylla," Travis scrambled to cover himself. "This isn't... I can explain." Natalie pulled the sheet up to her chin, tears already forming. "Oh my God, Sibs, I'm so sorry. We never meant for this to happen." I stood in the doorway, surprisingly calm. "How long?" I asked, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. They exchanged glances, a silent communication that revealed the depth of their connection. That hurt almost more than finding them in bed, the realization that they had developed their own intimate language. "It just happened," Natalie said weakly. 6 months, Travis admitted simultaneously. 6 months, half a year of lies. While I was designing our future, they were destroying it. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you, now. Baby, please. Travis stood, wrapping the sheet around his waist. It's just physical, it doesn't mean anything. Don't you dare, I cut him off. Don't you dare say it means nothing when you've been lying to me for 6 months, when you've been sleeping with my friend in our bed. Natalie was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks as she gathered her clothes. Sibylla, you have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. We just. Save it, I said coldly. I don't want to hear how you accidentally fell into my husband's bed repeatedly for half a year. Get dressed and get out of my house. Sibs, it's pouring rain, at least let me explain. Don't call me Sibs, I interrupted. You lost that right. You have 5 minutes to get out before I start throwing your things out the window. I turned and walked downstairs, my body on autopilot. I heard them dressing hurriedly, murmuring to each other. When they came downstairs, both looking rumpled and ashamed, I was sitting on the couch staring at our wedding photo on the mantel. Sibylla, Travis approached cautiously. Let's talk about this. You can't just throw me out of my own house. Watch me. I finally looked at him, this stranger I'd shared a life with. You can come back for your things tomorrow while I'm at work. The code to the garage is changed. I'll leave a box with the essentials on the porch tonight. Where am I supposed to go? He asked incredulously. I looked pointedly at Natalie, who flinched. Apparently you've been quite comfortable in her bed too. I'm sure she can return the favour. This is ridiculous. Travis ran his hands through his hair. You're overreacting. It was just sex, for God's sake. Something inside me snapped. Just sex, in our marriage bed, Travis, with my childhood friend, while looking me in the eye every day and lying. That's not just sex, that's a complete betrayal of everything we built together. Natalie stepped forward, reaching for my hand. Sibylla, please. I yanked my hand away. Don't touch me, ever again. Get out, both of you, before I call the police and report trespassers. You can't be serious, Travis scoffed. I pulled out my phone. Try me. They finally left Travis, promising this wasn't over, that we needed to talk when I was thinking rationally. Natalie left sobbing, begging for forgiveness I couldn't imagine ever giving. When the door closed behind them, I sank to the floor, my composure finally crumbling. The sobs came from deep within my chest, painful and raw. I cried until I had no tears left, until my throat was raw and my eyes swollen. Then I called the one person I knew would understand. Amanda. My voice cracked. You were right. He's cheating. With Natalie. Can I come stay with you for a while? Oh, Sibs, my sister breathed. I'm so sorry. Come right now. I'll make up the guest room. I packed a bag with shaking hands, then fulfilled my promise to Travis, tossing some clothes, his toothbrush and phone charger into a box that I left on the porch. Then I drove to Amanda's apartment across town, leaving behind the shattered remains of the life I thought I had. The week after discovering Travis and Natalie together was the darkest period of my life. I barely ate, hardly slept, and moved through Amanda's apartment like a ghost. My sister tried everything to help me: comfort food, wine, bad movies, long walks, but I was unreachable in my grief. You need to eat something, she'd plead, placing plates of food I couldn't taste in front of me. You need to sleep, she'd urge, as I stared at her ceiling at 3 a.m, replaying every moment of my marriage, searching for the signs I'd missed. Travis called constantly. His messages evolved from defensive, "You're blowing this out of proportion," to apologetic, "I made a terrible mistake," to desperate, "Please come home so we can fix this." I let them all go to voicemail, unable to bear the sound of his voice. Natalie sent a single email with the subject line, "I'm sorry." The body was a 5,000-word explanation of how their affair began, with innocent mentoring sessions progressed to confidential conversations, then emotional intimacy, and finally physical betrayal. She detailed her guilt, her attempts to end it, her genuine love for me as her friend. She claimed they'd been planning to end the affair, to recommit to their respective priorities. The email ended with, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope someday you might understand. I deleted it without responding. My design clients were told I had a family emergency. My friends, most of whom were mutual friends with Travis, received vague explanations that we were going through something. I couldn't bear to share the humiliating details yet. After a week of this zombie-like existence, Amanda sat me down with a cup of strong coffee and a firmer approach. "Sibs, I love you, and my heart is breaking for you," she said, taking my cold hands in hers. "But you can't stay in this limbo forever. You need to decide what happens next." "I don't know what happens next," I whispered. "Everything I planned for is gone." "Not everything," she squeezed my hands. "You still have your business. You have me. You have a future, even if it's not the one you imagined. But you need to take some action, either work on reconciliation with Travis or start the divorce process." The word divorce hit me like a physical blow. Despite everything, some part of me had been clinging to the possibility that this was a nightmare. I would eventually wake from that. My marriage could somehow survive this catastrophic breach of trust. "I need to get some things from the house," I said finally. "Clothes for work, my design materials. I can't hide in your guest room forever." "Want me to come with you?" Amanda offered. I shook my head. "I need to do this alone." The next day, I drove to our house, my house now, timing my visit for when I knew Travis would be at work. The familiar street, the carefully landscaped yard, the blue front door I'd painted myself, all of it felt like it belonged to someone else's life. Inside, everything was disturbingly normal. Travis had clearly been staying there despite my demands, his coffee mug in the sink, his laptop on the counter. I moved through the rooms, gathering essentials, trying not to look at the photos of us still hanging on the walls, the evidence of our shared life scattered everywhere. In our bedroom, the scene of the betrayal, I paused. The sheets had been changed, I noticed, with grim relief. I opened my closet to grab more clothes and spotted Travis's side with his neatly arranged shirts and pants. On impulse, I opened his dresser drawer, the one where he kept his personal items, cologne, watches, cufflinks. There, tucked in the back, was something I'd never noticed before. A small bottle of expensive lubricant, the kind used for intimate encounters, not medical purposes. The seal was broken, the bottle partially used. I stared at it, a fresh wave of nausea washing over me. Had he used this with Natalie, in our bed? The thought made my skin crawl. I almost threw it across the room but stopped myself. Instead, I picked up the bottle and examined it more carefully. It was high-end, clearly not something from a drugstore. The discovery triggered a new thought. I checked his phone records online. There it was, hundreds of texts to Natalie calls at strange hours, and most tellingly, a message from yesterday. "She's still at her sister's. Come over tonight. Bring the wine we like." They were still seeing each other. They were using my house while I was away. The realization crystallized something inside me. The grief that had consumed me for days suddenly hardened into something else, cold, focused anger. I put the lubricant back exactly where I found it and finished gathering my things. As I was leaving, I checked my email on my phone and found a message from Travis. "I know you're hurt and angry, but we need to talk. This silent treatment is childish. I'll be working late tonight, but I'm free tomorrow if you want to meet." Working late. Another lie. That night in Amanda's guest room, I lay awake formulating a plan, not for reconciliation, not for a civilized divorce, but for something that would make Travis and Natalie remember their betrayal every time they thought about it. The next morning, I visited a hardware store and purchased industrial-strength adhesive, the kind that bonds skin instantly, that requires a solvent to remove, that comes with warning labels about permanent bonding. Looking at the bottle in my car afterward, I felt a moment of doubt. Was I really going to do this? Was I stooping to a level beneath my dignity? But then I remembered them in my bed, the casual way they'd been continuing their affair, the lies upon lies. Yes, I was going to do this. For my plan to work perfectly, I needed Travis to believe I was still safely tucked away at Amanda's apartment, with no intention of returning home soon. I called him that evening, our first actual conversation since discovering the affair. "Sibylla, thank God," he answered immediately. "I've been so worried about you." "I'm fine," I said flatly. "I'm calling because I need more time." "Of course, whatever you need," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Take all the time you need to process this. I understand how hurt you must be." His fake understanding made my teeth clench. "I'll be staying at Amanda's for at least another week. I have some client projects I need to focus on, and I can't deal with this right now." "That makes sense," he said soothingly. "Focus on work, clear your head. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. I love you, Sibs. We can get through this." The casual use of my nickname, the one Natalie had used, the one that now felt tainted, solidified my resolve. "I need to go," I said abruptly, and hung up. That night, I told Amanda I was meeting a client for dinner. Instead, I drove to our house, timing my arrival for when I knew Travis would be at his weekly management meeting. I parked down the block and approached the house, cautiously checking for any signs that he might have come home early. The house was empty, just as I'd expected. I let myself in quietly and went straight to our bedroom, to his drawer. The lubricant bottle was exactly where I'd left it. I took it to the bathroom along with my purchase from the hardware store. Working carefully, I emptied the lubricant bottle into the toilet and flushed away the contents. Then I refilled it with the industrial adhesive, which had a remarkably similar consistency. I made sure the levels matched what had been in the bottle, wiped away any residue, and returned it to its exact position in the drawer. My heart was racing as I completed this task, a mix of anxiety and vindictive satisfaction coursing through me. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted to witness their discovery, to see the moment they realized something was terribly wrong. In our home office, I found the small security camera we'd purchased after a neighborhood break-in, but never installed. It was simple to set up, disguised as a clock radio, with motion detection and remote viewing capabilities through an app. I placed it strategically on the bookshelf facing our bed, angled it perfectly, and tested the connection to my phone. The final touch was setting up location tracking on my phone for Travis's device, something I had access to through our shared Apple account, but had never utilized before. Now I would know exactly when he returned home and with whom. My preparations complete, I left the house as carefully as I had entered, driving back to Amanda's apartment with a strange calm. The ball was in their court now. All I had to do was wait. I didn't have to wait long. The very next evening, my phone alerted me that Travis had returned home. An hour later, a second notification: Natalie's car had been spotted on our street by the neighborhood security app I was part of. Sitting in Amanda's guest room, I opened the camera app with trembling fingers. The bedroom was empty, but I could hear their voices downstairs, the clink of wine glasses. Laughter. They were having a wonderful time in my house, drinking my wine, preparing for another intimate betrayal in my bed. I almost turned off the app, then suddenly unsure if I could bear to watch even the beginning of their encounter. But a morbid determination kept my eyes fixed on the screen. 20 minutes later, they entered the bedroom, already kissing, clothes partially unbuttoned. I watched with detached disgust as they moved toward the bed, as Travis whispered something in Natalie's ear that made her laugh. He went to his drawer and removed the bottle I had prepared. My heart pounded as he applied the substance liberally, neither of them noticing anything amiss with the consistency or smell in their passion. What happened next was chaos incarnate. At first, they were too caught up in their intimacy to realize something was wrong. Then Travis tried to move and couldn't. Natalie cried out in pain when they attempted to separate. Panic set in as they realized they were quite literally stuck together in the most intimate way possible. "What the hell?" Travis shouted, trying to pull away, causing both of them to scream in pain. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Natalie was sobbing. "What's happening? The lube! Something's wrong with the lube!" Travis reached for the bottle with his free hand, turning it to read the label in confusion. Their frantic movements only made matters worse. The adhesive was working exactly as designed, creating an increasingly permanent bond with every passing second. "We need to get to the hospital," Travis finally said, his voice tight with pain and humiliation. We can't separate on our own." What followed was a mortifying struggle to find enough clothing to cover themselves minimally to get down the stairs, while effectively joined together to get into a car and drive to the emergency room. Their pain, panic, and mortification were evident in every movement, every pained cry, every desperate attempt to find a position that didn't cause agony. I watched until they managed to leave the bedroom, then close the app, a strange mixture of satisfaction and shock washing over me. I hadn't expected it to work quite so effectively. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt about the physical pain I'd caused, but it was quickly overwhelmed by the thought of the emotional pain they had inflicted on me. I was still sitting in the same position, phone in hand, when Travis called an hour later. I answered without speaking. "You psychotic bitch," he screamed into the phone. "Do you know what you've done? They had to use a special solvent in the ER. We could have been permanently damaged. I'm calling the police. I'm suing you for assault. You're doing nothing of the sort," I interrupted calmly. "Because if you do, I'll share the video of you and Natalie entering my house without permission, using my bed for your affair, and the text evidence showing you've been doing this for months. I wonder how your company would feel about their marketing director being involved in such a scandal, or how Natalie's new PR firm would react to her ethics." Silence on the other end of the line. "Then you were watching, you recorded us. I recorded you illegally entering my house and stealing my property," I clarified. "The fact that you then engaged in intimate activities and had an unfortunate accident with some adhesive you mistook for lubricant is merely unfortunate timing. You replaced you did this deliberately." His voice shook with rage. "Prove it," I said simply. "You've been lying to me for 6 months, Travis. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? This is insane," he sputtered. "You could have seriously injured us." "And you seriously injured me," I replied evenly. "Consider us even. Now, I'll be filing for divorce next week. I suggest you find a good lawyer and prepare for a settlement discussion, unless you'd prefer this incident to become public knowledge." He was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want?" he finally asked, his voice subdued. "I want you out of my life," I said. "I want a fair division of our assets. I want you to never contact me again once this is done. And I want you to remember this night every time you consider betraying someone's trust in the future." "You've lost your mind," he said, but the fight had gone out of his voice. "No, Travis. I've found my self-respect. There's a difference." I hung up, turned off my phone, and had the first peaceful night's sleep since discovering their affair. The divorce proceedings began the following week. I hired Sharon Levinsky, reputed to be the most ruthless divorce attorney in Seattle. During our initial consultation, I laid out the facts of Travis's infidelity without mentioning my revenge. "Adultery with your friend," Sharon raised an eyebrow. "That's particularly egregious. Do you have evidence?" I nodded. "Text messages, location data showing them meeting at our house while I was away, and witnesses who saw them together at restaurants when Travis claimed to be working." "Excellent." She made notes on her legal pad. "Washington is a no-fault state, but evidence of misconduct can influence property division and spousal support. How long were you married?" 8 years, I replied. "We have substantial assets, the house in Queen Anne investment accounts, retirement funds." She looked up. "No children." A pang of sadness hit me. "No, we were planning to start trying this year." Sharon's expression softened momentarily. Perhaps a blessing in disguise given the circumstances. She wasn't wrong. The thought of being permanently tied to Travis through children was unbearable now. Travis hired his own attorney, a corporate lawyer friend with limited family law experience. In our first mediation session, he appeared with a bandage on his hand. a reminder of the emergency room visit that neither of us mentioned. Natalie wasn't present, but I learned through mutual friends that she'd requested a transfer to her company's Portland office, effectively fleeing Seattle after our confrontation. The negotiation was surprisingly civil. Travis, clearly eager to put the entire situation behind him, agreed to most of my terms with minimal resistance. I would keep the house, he would keep his 401k, and we would split the remaining assets evenly. He even agreed to a modest spousal support payment for 2 years to compensate for the income disparity between us. "He's being unusually accommodating," Sharon commented after a particularly productive session. "Most cheating spouses fight harder, especially men with his income level." I smiled slightly. "Let's just say he's motivated to resolve this quietly." The divorce was finalized 4 months after I discovered the affair. The day the papers were signed, Travis looked at me across the conference table with an unreadable expression. "I hope you find happiness, Sibylla," he said formally as we prepared to leave. "I already have," I lied, gathering my purse. "Goodbye, Travis." The truth was far more complicated. I wasn't happy, not yet, but I was surviving, which felt like an accomplishment in itself. The anger that had fueled my revenge had burned itself out, leaving behind a hollow space I wasn't sure how to fill. I returned to the Queen Anne house that night, now legally mine alone, and walked through the empty rooms. I'd redecorated extensively, purging every reminder of Travis and our marriage. New furniture, new paint colours, new artwork. The master bedroom had been completely transformed. The bed where I'd found them, replaced with a custom platform frame I'd designed myself. Standing in the kitchen with a glass of wine, I realised I didn't want to live here anymore. The house, beautiful as it was, held too many memories. It was time for a completely fresh start. I listed the property the next day and began searching for a new place. A modern apartment in Capitol Hill with floor-to-ceiling windows and an open concept design that couldn't be more different from the traditional craftsman. With the proceeds from the house sale, I expanded my design business, hiring 2 junior designers and an administrative assistant. Sibylla Spaces became Sibylla Interiors, with a new website, new branding, and a focus on commercial projects that would keep me too busy to dwell on the past. I also started therapy, finally acknowledging that my revenge, while momentarily satisfying, hadn't healed the deeper wounds of betrayal. Dr. Lewin, a compassionate woman in her 50s, never judged my actions, but helped me explore the anger that had driven them. "Revenge comes from a place of powerlessness," she explained during one session. "You felt your agency had been taken away by their deception, so you sought to reclaim it." "I don't regret it," I admitted. "Does that make me a terrible person?" "It makes you human," she replied. "The question now is, where do you go from here?" Where indeed? The divorce settlement had given me financial security. The business was thriving, but my personal life was non-existent. I'd cut ties with most of our mutual friends, unable to face the possibility that others had known about the affair. I worked long hours, fell into bed, exhausted, and started the same routine the next day. Amanda, my steadfast supporter, through everything, finally intervened 6 months after the divorce. "You're existing, not living," she said bluntly over Sunday brunch. "When was the last time you did something purely for enjoyment?" I couldn't remember. "I'm signing you up for a pottery class," she announced. "Tuesday evening starting next week. No arguments." I started to protest but stopped myself. She was right. I needed to rebuild a life beyond work and rumination. The pottery class led to a hiking group, which led to a book club. Slowly, I developed new friendships separate from my previous life with Travis. These people knew me as I was now successful business owner, newly single, somewhat guarded, not as half of the perfect couple we'd pretended to be. In the hiking group, I met Eliza, a divorce attorney who had survived her own painful split 5 years earlier. We bonded over trail mix and war stories. The glue thing was genius, she cackled when I finally shared the full story of my revenge during a weekend trip to the Olympic Peninsula. Probably illegal, definitely dangerous, but undeniably poetic. It wasn't my proudest moment, I admitted, but it felt necessary at the time. Honey, we all do crazy things when our hearts are shattered, she said, passing me a flask of whiskey as we watched the sunset from our campsite. The important thing is learning and growing afterward. Through Eliza, I met other women with similar experiences, the Betrayed Wives Club, as we jokingly called ourselves. Their stories helped me realize I wasn't alone, that surviving betrayal didn't make me defective or unlovable. A year after the divorce, I received an unexpected email from Natalie. The subject line read simply, "Can we talk?" My first instinct was to delete it unread, but curiosity won out. "Dear Sibylla," she had written, "I've spent a year trying to figure out how to approach you, or whether I should at all. I know I have no right to ask for your time or forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable, a complete betrayal of our friendship and your trust. There's no excuse, though. I've tortured myself trying to understand my own actions. I'm writing because I'm moving back to Seattle next month for a new job opportunity. I wanted you to hear it from me rather than through the grapevine. I promise I won't intrude on your life or spaces. I just thought you deserved to know. I also wanted to tell you that Travis and I ended things permanently after the incident. What happened between us was never love, just selfishness and poor boundaries. He moved to Chicago 6 months ago, so you won't have to worry about running into either of us together. I miss your friendship every day. It was the most genuine relationship in my life, and I destroyed it for something meaningless. I'll understand if you never respond to this message, but I needed to say how deeply sorry I am for the pain I caused. Wishing you all the happiness in the world, Natalie." I read the email 3 times, surprised by my own calm. A year ago, the thought of Natalie returning to Seattle would have filled me with rage. Now, I felt oddly detached. Her presence in the same city no longer had the power to disrupt my rebuilt life. I never responded to the email, but I didn't delete it either. It served as a reminder of how far I'd come, how much stronger I was now. 2 years after the divorce, at a client's gallery opening, I ran into Jason, a former classmate from design school. We'd kept in loose contact through professional channels, but I hadn't seen him in person for years. He'd established his own architecture firm, specializing in sustainable commercial buildings. "Sibylla Winters," he grinned, kissing my cheek. "Your redesign of the Westlake Center food court is the talk of the industry. I'm in awe." "Jason Morgan," I returned his smile. "I could say the same about your Lake Union boathouse project. The integration with the waterfront is stunning." We spent the evening catching up, and by the end, he'd asked for my number. Our first date was comfortable, free from the awkwardness I'd expected after so long away from dating. He knew about my divorce. Seattle's design community was too small for secrets, but never pressed for details. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and transparent communication. When I finally told him the full story of Travis's betrayal and my revenge 6 months into dating, he listened without judgment. "I probably would have done worse," he admitted, though maybe with less creative flair. "I'm not proud of it," I said honestly. "The person who did that was operating from a place of deep pain." "And who are you now?" he asked, taking my hand across the table. I considered the question carefully. "Someone who understands her worth. Someone who won't accept betrayal or disrespect. Someone who's learned that revenge might feel good momentarily, but healing comes from rebuilding, not retaliating." He nodded. "I like that person very much." 3 years after divorcing Travis, I still occasionally think about that night. The chaos captured on the security camera, the frantic phone call from the hospital, the look on Travis's face during our final divorce hearing. The memory no longer brings satisfaction or shame, just a distant recognition of a chapter closed. The experience transformed me in ways I never could have predicted. I'm more cautious with my trust, yes, but also more confident in my ability to survive whatever life throws at me. I've learned that happiness isn't found in perfect relationships or picture book homes, but in self-respect and authenticity. If you're listening to my story and facing your own betrayal, know this: the path to healing isn't through elaborate revenge, satisfying as it might be in the moment. The true victory comes from rebuilding your life on your own terms, discovering your strength, and eventually reaching a place where the betrayal becomes just a story you tell, not a wound that still bleeds. The greatest revenge in the end is living well, and that's exactly what I intend to keep doing. Have you ever faced a betrayal that completely blindsided you? How did you move forward from it? Share your story in the comments below. If my journey resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself afterward.